This is active transport, so the solute is going to be moving from a low concentration toward a high concentration. So that would be against a gradient or up a gradient. So for primary active transport, you have to have a carrier protein. And that carrier protein is going to function as an enzyme called ATPase. If it ends in ACE, it's an enzyme. And not only does this carrier protein function as an enzyme, it also functions as a pump. So those are three different terms that we'll use to describe the same thing. So active transport involves the use of direct energy. And by direct energy, what we mean is ATP. When we say we're using direct energy, we have to release the energy via hydrolysis of ATP. Here we have ATP, and here's our carrier protein involved, which remember also functions as an enzyme and a pump. And so in this hydrolysis reaction, we're losing a phosphate. It requires water, and hence it's called hydrolysis. So we use water to do this. We lose a phosphate from the ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which knocks it down to ADP, adenosine diphosphate, and that phosphate that's released is now bound to the carrier. You'll see a close example here in just a moment. So here are some different examples of primary active transporters. The most common one is going to be the sodium-potassium pump, and hence that's the example that we're going to be talking about in just a moment. To begin, it's very important that you actually memorize your ion concentrations for sodium and potassium in the intracellular fluid as well as the extracellular fluid. And so we have a high concentration of potassium in the intracellular fluid and a low concentration of sodium in the intracellular fluid. And then just the reverse conditions out there in the extracellular fluid. Now I've put here that this is a resting cell. And what I mean by a resting cell is that this is a cell that is not reacting to its environment. So this cell is just chilling. At this point, it's a couch potato. It's not reacting to anything. And so this cell, if you notice, you have concentration gradients, right? And electrical gradients for these various ions. That's important to have those. And we'll discuss later about why that's so important. The intracellular fluid has a net negative charge. The extracellular fluid has a net positive charge. That's also important to commit to memory. Okay, now what we want to do is think about primary active transport in the sense that, okay, if this is primary active transport, which way will sodium be moving? And so, since it's primary active, we know that both solutes will move from a low concentration toward a high concentration. So what that means is that sodium would be moving out of the cell, low concentration toward a high concentration. Potassium would be moving into the cell, again, against its gradient, a low concentration toward a high concentration.